And today is May 28th, 2013. Thanks for joining us tonight. You are listening to the 7th episode of Cop Block Radio. Cop Block Radio is a show dedicated to police accountability in the police state and is brought to you by CopBlock.org. If you have a story you'd like to submit or something you'd like to talk about on the show, or you have any specific topics or questions you'd like us to address on the show, be sure to email them to CopBlockRadioShow@gmail.com. And also be sure to like our Facebook page, Cop Block Radio Show, all one word. And you can stay up to date on everything that's going on with the show and when we're going to have special guests. And speaking of special guests, tomorrow we are going to have the founder of Photography is Not a Crime, Carlos Miller, which we'll be talking to him tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. So that's Wednesday the 29th at 9 p.m. Eastern. And also right now we have a lot of feelers out, so hopefully we'll be able to bring a whole bunch of interviews coming up in the next couple weeks. So yeah, make sure to go like the Facebook page, and then you can make sure to stay up to date. And if you're a part of a local group and would like to talk about what's going on in your neck of the woods, be sure to reach out to us. You can message us on the Facebook page, or you can send us an email to CopBlockRadioShow@gmail.com. My name's Eric. You can find me over at freerockpress.com and ohiocopblock.org, and you can find those both on Facebook as well. And with me tonight, as always, is Adam from Spokane Cop Block, and you can find them over on Facebook if you just search for them. So, we have, before we start the show tonight, we have some exciting news, is that we are going to be added to the lineup of FPRN radio, and we're going to be moving to a new time and a new night. So starting on Wednesday, June 12th, we will be moving to 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday nights, live on FPRN Radio Network, which you can find over at fprnradio.com. Be sure to check us out over there. There's going to be, you'll have access to a live chat during the show, and we'll also have the ability to take live phone calls. So if we ever feel the need to want to take a phone call, we can do that. And overall, we're just going to have a better produced show. So I'm really looking forward to moving over there. So be sure to check us out. It's going to be June 12th over at fprnradio.com every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So we have one more show in this current format, and then which will be on the 4th next week, and then we'll be switching to Wednesdays on the 12th. So, which is going to be fun because the 12th is going to be our first show on FPRN and my last show while I'm still in Ohio. And then I'll be moving to New Hampshire, so hopefully I don't have any internet problems when I move, because that would totally suck if we
I really hope not.
Yeah.
But also, if you guys want to call in and argue with us, you don't agree with that anything, we're totally down for that. Call in, we'll debate with you.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to moving over there because, yeah, like I said, we have the ability to take live calls, and this way we'll be able to get guests on easier and whatnot, because we can take phone calls and Skype calls, and like I said, there's going to be a live chat, which is always fun because all the other shows usually pay pretty close attention to it, so we will too. And if anything pops up, then we can address it right then.
Of course, we'll be more than happy to chat with you guys if you guys want to talk or ask questions.
All right, so getting into... Ooh, a little feedback there, buddy. So getting into our show tonight, out of... It seems that there's a whole bunch of things going down in Albuquerque, and that's one of our feelers that we have out, so hopefully we can have one of the crew from down there come on and talk about it. But let's see, this was just last week. This is following up from a previous story that was published back in February, but now a a young woman who was killed in a car accident with a Albuquerque police officer is now suing the APD and the city and others. Apparently, they gathered back last week, which would have been the young lady's 22nd birthday. So yeah, so now they're suing the city. I'm trying to figure out. Oh, this happened because a police officer, I think it's Casas.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Casas. He was trying to chase. Well, he said he had been chasing after a possible drunk driver in a dark colored vehicle before the crash, but 2 eyewitnesses said that is simply not true, and that he wasn't following anybody, and he was apparently traveling more than 60 miles an hour, and he didn't even hit his brakes when he ran a red light and ended up colliding with the young lady's car.
So he had his lights on, is what it says. It says he had his lights on, but he didn't slow down to go through the intersection at all.
Yeah, I'm curious if it was his emergency lights that were on or just his headlights.
Well, I would hope he had his emergency lights on if he was chasing someone.
Right. Of course, eyewitnesses say that he wasn't chasing anybody, so who knows what he was particularly doing. But he was doing more than 60 miles an hour through this intersection, and he ran a red light. So, yeah, he didn't even hit the brakes. So I don't know about you, but I rarely ever see cops blow through intersections.
I rarely do. They usually come up to him. Even if their emergency lights are on, they come up, they slow down, they check, and then they go through.
And they'll at least have their siren on. I mean...
Oh, yeah, they blare that. Yeah.
So, we'll see how this comes out. But like I said, this happened back... The crash happened back in February of 2013. And so now the young lady's family is suing the police department because it appears that this was a very negligent thing to do on the account of this particular police officer just kind of blowing through a light like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that kind of comes down to some of the policies of certain police departments when it comes down to appropriate usage of chasing. You know, some departments will say if it falls within these parameters, then don't pursue at high speed or closer or anything like that. So, I mean, that might be one of these cases. Was this like city driving? It probably was kind of an inappropriate place to be doing 60, even if you were chasing somebody. I don't know. That I guess that will come out in whatever ends up happening with the lawsuit.
Yeah, we'll see.
So you have something coming out of the FBI spying on press.
Mm-hmm. So basically what we've got here is antiwar.com has filed a lawsuit and is attempting to take the FBI to court based on, I mean, what we've all heard recently with the fact of the FBI and other positions of power in the government that are spying on press. And we all heard about the Associated Press being spied on, and many of their reporters' phones being tapped, phone records, whatnot. And so basically Anti-War is attempting to take them to court over the fact of them spying without warrants or without just cause. And this seems to be a pretty common occurrence at the moment of the government going over their bounds and thinking that they don't have to follow any of the rules that the Constitution or law says to be able to watch someone that closely. It's an awesome step in the right direction. We'll see if it works. It's good that somebody's finally got the courage to take them on and attempt to put them back in their place. Um, excuse me. Basically, in the article here, we've got quite a few quotes from antiwar.com. Yes. In 2011, one of antiwar.com's major donors withdrew his financial support from antiwar.com out of concern that the FBI would be monitoring him if he continued to provide his financial support, which is ridiculous. You shouldn't be scared to donate or financially support a group without fear of retaliation from your government or police of some form. That's a very sad road to go down.
Yeah, according to the suit, the ACLU has tried a few times to obtain an FBI files since somebody was alerted that there was a lengthy FBI memo back in 2011, and then
You're talking
it
about
seems
the
they
freedom of information.
yeah, it
requests,
looks
yeah.
like they got a very heavily redacted 94-page document, which is kind of useless if it's all black ink.
Yeah, I think I heard something about this. Basically, they got that 94-page document, and the whole thing was basically completely blacked out. Nothing on it. So basically, a completely useless 94-page document that, yeah, it just seems like a big waste of ink, in my opinion.
Yeah. How does just black ink qualify as information?
Yeah.
So much for transparency. Maybe they should have used highlight. Maybe they meant to use highlighter.
That's what it was. They just used the wrong color.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that because
I don't know if anybody's not aware though, is the fact of the claim of the FBI's reasoning for the spying on the Associated Press was the fact of, I guess, a slip, something leaked out to someone that worked at the Associated Press that did an article. I don't remember his name, but basically it was because of him, and he put out an article about the whole thing. And so that supposedly gave the FBI just cause to start spying on everyone, or almost everyone, of their reporters that worked there to watch them.
Yeah, it is when that came out, like what was it, a week or two ago, about the AP is like, oh my, it's just so ridiculous that the press is just getting trounced in their protections in general and are being spied upon by the government, even though most of them are already just further branches of the government, considering everything is they need to cast the government in a
positive manner.
Yeah, there you go. Or else they get nothing and they never get an interview with anybody important ever again.
Mm-hmm. Which is sad. That's not how our news media should be at all. There shouldn't be restraints like that.
I know what happened with the Washington Times and Watergate and that type of reporting. Nobody does that anymore because they're all at the mercy of the government.
Well, the only one that I would give credit to that's anywhere near like anything like that would be Luke Rudowski in his We Are Change. It's pretty decent media. Goes out, asks some tough questions, gets in people's faces, pisses them off. I like it.
That seems about what he's up to. So
it is. He likes to get in people's faces and take them off, but it's good stuff.
So we have a story coming out of Louisville where a Metro police officer has been charged with 2 counts of official misconduct for allegedly detaining a woman while on duty and telling her to pull her pants down and expose herself during a routine call. So Officer Joe Burden allegedly falsely told the woman who was a witness on a call that there was a warrant for her arrest. So he told the woman that there was a warrant for her arrest, which there wasn't. And he requested she take off her clothes after other police had already left the scene.
Oh, great. So he waited for the other officers to leave and then told her to take her clothes off.
Yeah. So he was in court on Wednesday, and of course he pled not guilty, and acted as if it says he acted as if he had the authority to request this, and the woman complied, as the complaint alleges. So because the person complied is reason enough to say
justify what he's done.
Yeah,
because she didn't. Her. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a typical, victim blaming.
Turn it back around. It's their fault.
Yeah. This guy has a gun and other various weaponry on him, and has some sort of alleged authority.
Tells you to take your clothes off, or else.
Or appearance of authority, at least. And then this is kind of what happens. It's blackmail in a way, because obviously she probably wouldn't have done it if it was not a police officer.
So it says also that he touched her in this down lower in the article. It says that he asked if he could feel them, put his hands underneath the victim's shirt, and touched her breasts, according to the criminal summons.
That's just a class act. At least he asked, right?
Oh yeah, that makes it okay.
That makes it okay.
Makes it completely okay because he asked.
Yeah. So it's so ridiculous. So he's charged with 2 counts of alleged misconduct. So
does that make it next time I see an officer I can ask and do something inappropriate? That makes it okay. I asked. Yeah. I said surprise.
Yeah, and this is kind of one of those things. More people need to know their rights in general, because I don't know why this lady felt she needed to comply. It is obviously a poor decision and a lack of, what do you want to call it, exposure to the ideas of what freedoms you have and what constitutes personal right, yeah, and what constitutes a legitimate legal order or not. And unfortunately, the glint of a badge sometimes carries a lot more power than common sense. So
it does. A lot of times it's like that.
So this was an interesting story. It ended up popping up at a few places. You have something about a undercover pot sting in high school.
This is the most ridiculous story about the war on drugs I think I have ever heard. And I've heard some pretty messed up ones that were pretty ridiculous. But this goes beyond that point. We got cops go undercover at a high school and bust a special needs kid for pot. Now, okay, you take the headline in the context there, and you gotta realize it is a special needs kid. Special needs kid, I mean, obviously knows somewhat of right and wrong, not completely. I wouldn't expect him to know fully 100% right and wrong, without knowing him personally. But from what the article said here, is that basically the cops tried and tried and tried to convince this kid to buy marijuana. He refused multiple times. But then the kid ends up showing up another day at school and gotten it from someone else. So basically they had been trying to convince him to do this. He says, no, I'm not going to do it with you, so he goes to somebody else. And then they bust him for it. Which,
I mean, this is one of those things that even... It sounds like to me he knows this particular situation has nothing to do with knowing right and wrong, because this is just an arbitrary wrong, and this goes back to who's the victim in this particular quote-unquote crime. Well, nobody. It's now this special needs
But what type individual. Of person do you have to be to try to convince a special needs kid to try to buy pot and then bust him for it?
Yeah.
I mean, really? How screwed up a person you got to be to do that?
I know, that's just shameful. It says in this.
Disgusted in yourself for that.
In the top of this, it says that he was autistic.
Yeah, or even then, to convince someone to do it and then arrest them for it after you got to feel bad.
Yeah, it is. I don't know his particular situation, but a lot is they just go. They don't have that filter to figure out what is common sense and what's not necessarily what's right and wrong. But deception is one of those things that is hard to nail down sometimes, and it's kind of, especially taking advantage of a kid like this, is just ridiculous anyways. But I mean, in this case, again, it's still not really a case of right and wrong, because
and then even then it says that the officer, the undercover officer, was the one who gave him the money to buy the marijuana in the first place. So that means technically the officer bought it, not even him. It wasn't even his own money. It was the cop gave him the money to go buy this stuff.
So so he gave him money to go buy him something. So like, yeah, this is so ridiculous.
It's more than a setup. It's And I don't understand this whole concept. They keep saying they want to put undercover cops in schools to crack down on the drug problem, but yet it seems to me that the cops themselves are initiating the drug problem. There isn't much of a problem going on until the cops show up and start getting everybody to buy this stuff, and then they arrest them all.
So it sounded like...
But on top of that, the school had expelled the student.
Yep.
Because of the arrest.
Mm-hmm.
They took it to court. The school has now taken back the expulsion, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
The child is being forced into 20 hours of community service, and they're giving him a not guilty sentencing.
Yeah,
which is a good thing. I mean, at least we have a good judge going on.
Yeah, but the judge should have thrown the whole thing out to begin with, because they were clearly taking advantage of this individual from the start. And from what I'm reading farther down, it sounds like one of the officers involved, Officer Stout, seems to have at least a short list, if not a long list, of problems with the force in general. He was fired in May of 2011, and then apparently he subsequently sued the town for wrongful termination, and then because he was claiming he was fired after he informed a police chief in the town that a reserve officer was working more hours than was permitted by state law. So this guy was already a tattletale to begin with, which is kind of funny.
Did he win that lawsuit against the city?
Yeah, it says that the lawsuit was settled in December of 2012 for $50,000, and he was allowed to replace the termination notice in his personnel file with a resignation letter. So they let him swap out his firing for a resignation letter instead. Of course, then their insurance had to cover it. So that really only put the taxpayer on the hook for $5,500 and not the full $50,000.
Well, at least it wasn't full $50,000.
But yeah, so yeah, that's is that police work 101 in friggin'? Holy crap! I'm totally reading from the wrong story.
You really.
Oh yeah, I'm totally reading from the wrong story. I'm reading from my next story and not yours. Oops. I apologize. I have no idea what happened with the officer involved. But hey, we might as well backtrack into the story that I was going to talk about. So everything I said about the previous officer, what he did was a former University of Maine at Machias in Maine, which I'm guessing is near Bangor because that is where the lawsuit was taking place. Anyways, a former student of the University of Maine has filed a federal lawsuit against Stout, which is the officer I was talking about, for allegedly breaking her nose and groping a friend during an unwarranted arrest in the early morning of May 28th in 2010. This article is from this year, so it's a recent lawsuit. The individual is alleging that they're walking home, and apparently Officer Stout was on a routine patrol in the morning, and he saw the women leave a tavern and followed them in his cruiser at a very slow speed, keeping pace with the two as they walked. And then he saw one of the women kick a sign. It was a political sign, and so he warned her not to touch political signs, and that was it. And then the suit further states that after the warning, Stout left and then ended up returning a second time and ordered them to approach the cruiser, and at that point asked for not the one who kicked the sign, but the other individual's name, address, and date of birth, at which time she asked why her personal information was relevant. And that was at the time where the other lady who actually had kicked the sign said that she wasn't the one who kicked the sign. The one that he was asking the information for, and that she was the one who actually kicked it. And with no further provocation, Stout got out of his cruiser and started shouting repeatedly, "You're going to jail, you're going to jail, you're going to jail." And
for kicking a sign.
For kicking a sign, yeah. For kicking a political sign. And then he allegedly grabbed the woman and slammed her against the trunk of his cruiser, all while the other witnessed the actions and repeatedly asked Stout to leave her alone. And then he reportedly forced the young lady to face him, and then he struck her in the face with his fist, breaking her nose, then pepper sprayed the women who were both forced into the cruiser, and while doing so, he grabbed and fondled the other lady's breasts. And then, according to...
Were these, like, big women, or... I mean, does this guy need to use this much force against two women? I mean, really?
For what? For refusing to identify herself when she had done nothing wrong?
For kicking a sign. I mean, even for kicking a sign, even though.
I mean, how does it get this far? And then it further alleges in the suit that Officer Stout did not take the young lady to a nearby hospital for treatment for her injuries, and he had their clothes washed to destroy the evidence of blood and pepper spray. And further in the lawsuit, it says that Stout is a known stalker of young women in Washington County and in Machias particularly. Machias is the town that this took place in. And it also accuses Stout of asking fellow police officers to investigate the incident in an effort to cover up the assault. So now this is going into a lawsuit. And then all the other stuff I said earlier was that Stout had been fired back in 2011. I'm not 100% sure why. Oh, because of tattling on a other. Well, he alleged that it was because he told on somebody else, but who know? There it is. An evaluation by a psychologist said he was not fit for duty. So that's why they say they fired him, and he says it's because he told on some guy for working too many hours, and that lawsuit was settled for $50,000, which kind of sucks if he was not fit for duty and they still
And you have
paid
to
him
let him
50
come
grand.
back, and he beats on women.
Yeah. Well, this was before his firing. So this originally happened in 2010,
Oh,
in May of 2010, and this lawsuit is now it's May of 2000. Jesus Christ. 2013. I'm like, what year is it? So yeah, this happened before he got fired, and then he got fired for a totally different incident, and then the city had to shell out 50 grand, though most of it was out of the town's insurance coverage, and only 5,500 of it the town had to pay out. So yeah, so this is
well, speaking of paying out money for things like that, I had an interesting conversation with somebody the other day. That was the idea of a police officer actually having to insure themselves to be a police officer. Kind of, I don't know if are you familiar with like a doctor has to
right.
have their own insurance practice, so that if they do something wrong, their insurance they have personally covers them for that.
Right.
An interesting conversation with somebody about law enforcement doing that and imposing something like that and making the officer get his own insurance. So therefore, if the officer misbehaves or assaults someone, his insurance rate would go up, or the insurance company wouldn't cover him anymore, and he wouldn't be capable of being a police officer anymore.
Right, and it wouldn't even have to come down to forced insurance. It could be as simple as actually having police officers personally accountable for their own actions. And in that case, any smart police officer would then get their own insurance, and it'd be kind of a market-driven thing that if you're a police officer, you would have insurance because you never know what could happen in particular. But I mean, that's kind of the thing that right now police officers don't have any personal liability when it comes to most of their actions.
Their own actions, yeah.
It's all paid out.
That was my thought. That would remove the city from having the taxpayers from having to pay out against things like this. This would be
So really,
their own liability.
So really, the solution would be that the police would be personally liable, whether they're insured or not, and then in that case, it would create their own market for needing insurance. But right now, it's not that the city has insurance; it's that the police have no accountability for their own actions. Mm-hmm. So when a police officer is sued, it's no skin off of their back because it's just going to be picked up by the taxpayer and the city and not them.
Yep.
Regardless of their insurance status. I mean, for something like this, in general, say a police officer did something and then they figured out eventually in the lawsuit the victim was awarded $25,000. Mm-hmm. If it was you and me arbitrating against each other, like you had wronged me and I had won $25,000 in a lawsuit, and you would have to figure out some way to make me whole, whether it's through your insurance or anything like that. You don't have this overarching entity to pay for your mistakes. You're the one who pays for your own mistakes and misdeeds. So I don't see why police officers and other government officials are absolved of their own liability as a person. Mm-hmm. When they are still acting as a person, it's not like, oh, just because you're drawing a paycheck to do X, Y, and Z suddenly makes you no longer a person.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that'd be great if somehow it could be changed that police officers, depending where they could even start at a town level, that the town passes some weird ordinance or whatever. I don't know if it'd be particularly quote unquote legal or whatnot, but if they passed, when you are a police officer and you sign on the dotted line that your contract to do this X, Y, and Z, you are personally liable for anything you do while on duty. There you go.
I like it. If I
And
I go out in public, I'm personally liable for whatever I do.
right, just because you happen to draw a paycheck from
Mm-hmm.
the city, which is really drawing a paycheck from individuals who get that money stolen from them, it doesn't suddenly make you unaccountable to the people that you're stealing money from to pay for your salary.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes no sense that would be the case. You're paying for a service, yet you are not accountable to the people who are paying for your salary. And that kind of goes back to the petition that was started was about pretty much when I think it was the first episode that we did, so probably about 7 weeks ago, where that do you remember this petition?
I think if I remember it, I do.
Now I can't remember what it was actually. Oh, that the public should have the ability to vote to remove a police officer.
Yes.
Because right now the public has no say or input into who stays and who goes, and this between this, police officers being personally liable and the public being able to remove police officers who they no longer want, that could go a long way on reducing these types of incidents and subsequent incidents that happen for these particular individuals who do something like this and then end up just getting rehired again, like that guy in Florida who's been fired 9 times.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it would kind of put an end to that if the people had a say and the police officers were personally liable for what they do, because they are people after all. So.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
So our next story is a pretty funny one out of Seattle.
Yes.
I know the other week we were having nonstop Seattle fun, weren't we? Looks like we got this week a little bit of actual fun out of it. We had a local Seattle bookshop quickly transformed into what appeared to be a crime scene, all because of a granola wrapper. I'm not joking here. This is what we got. Around 7 a.m. on Wednesday, police and a bomb squad were called to the mystery bookshop to investigate a suspicious package. Officers reached the scene to discover an inflated granola bar wrapper and a computer modem card attached to a phone cord.
You mean a slightly warmed up granola bar that can kind of get a little puffy when, warm air is introduced into a vacuum sealed package?
Yep. And a computer modem card attached to a phone cord placed on top of a white piece of paper. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't know of any modems and granola bars that can produce any sort of explosion.
Not anytime lately, at least.
Yeah, no, not with just those 3 components. I mean, this is obviously, you can tell it looks like it's out of a desktop computer. They have pictures of it. Looks like a desktop computer modem, old school phone jack one, and just it looks like a crumbled up nature granola bar. It looks like it's actually been opened, and the granola bar is no longer inside. So, I mean, you want to talk about this?
Wait a minute. Is that my... Oh, geez. I have a commercial playing, and I thought it was coming from your side. Never mind. Go ahead.
No, good. So I guess after 5 minutes, the bomb squad determined that the granola bar wrapper and the computer modem were just a harmless granola bar wrapper and a computer modem. So, I don't know, but this just more proves the paranoia of the people of being afraid of anything.
I know, it makes me want to just bang my head on my microphone.
It does. People this dumb, I mean, you can't look at it for a second and be like, oh, it's a modem. Duh.
Yeah, just because it has a few weird wires and whatnot. Who cares? Apparently, this is like those things that recently we've had the individuals be like, oh, you have a cell phone. Well, a cell phone can be converted into a gun. Yeah. Do you know the difference between a freaking gun and an iPhone?
Yeah, a 22 round shell is usually, I think it's actually a tiny bit thicker than an iPhone. Well, okay, a newer iPhone, new iPhone 5 or anything like that. I think 22 round is thicker than an iPhone 5.
Yeah,
You couldn't hide it inside of there; it wouldn't work.
So so that's all. They just kind of then figured out. Oh wait a minute, it's not a
Basically,
bomb.
they showed up and they're like, "Are you serious?" Basically, the main point of this article is the fact that they're calling this paranoia, making it difficult for the police to be as effective in real emergencies because they keep being thrown off to these suspicious packages that end up being nothing.
Wait, so who called this in? Oh, you muted for a second. You muted for a second.
Oh.
So was it just some random person who called it in, or was it actually like police or something?
It doesn't actually say who exactly called it in, but one of the employees at the bookshop wrote on the store website that she appreciated the police's response to the call, and that they were very timely and effective in their call.
Yeah, but they just like wasted a bunch of their time.
Well, yeah, I wasted a bunch of their time, some tax dollars, all that good stuff, for a modem and a Granola Bar wrapper. In my opinion, I thought it was a good story to bring up the fact of the paranoia that we've all been put into of feeling like a terrorist is going to attack us.
Well, yeah, that just happened last week. We covered a story where a Middle Easterner was cooking dinner and bringing it from one place to another in a pressure cooker, and the FBI friggin' raided his friggin' place because he wanted to cook some friggin' rice.
That's right.
Like, really?
To bring up the paranoia that everybody is scared and thinks something bad and tragic is always going to happen. When in all reality, you're more likely to get the crap beat out of you by a police officer for doing nothing. Like we just saw with the last story with the officer, because you kicked a sign, now you get a broken nose, some mace, and your breast fondled.
Yeah. No. Okay. So I don't know if we've covered too many of these, but it seems to show up almost on a weekly basis, if not a weekly basis, about not necessarily police, but town officials, though in this case it sounds like police are probably involved, that they are a little too jumpy around dogs and don't know how to deal with dogs, so they just shoot them. So this is out of Dowell, Illinois, where a family is seeking answers into the shooting death of their 2-year-old Beagle Lab mix. So I don't know how ferocious this thing could have been. I'm
looking at this picture and it doesn't look like a very big dog.
No, yeah. I mean, it's a Beagle Lab. It probably doesn't look too scary.
No.
So no, I can't find the part that was. Anyways, so there's a person and was walking their own dog when he was approached by the Dowell mayor, Dennis Stewart. Stewart allegedly told Dennis. I don't know why Stewart Dennis is the same person. It says that Stewart allegedly told Dennis, but I'm thinking it was actually that Stewart told Soul, which is the guy who is walking his dog, that to stay off the streets because the dog was running loose and was a danger to the neighborhood. And he was told by Stewart when offering to catch. So this guy offered to catch the dog because he knew who the dog was, and offering to catch the dog and take it back to its owner. The mayor said he was going to, quote unquote, going to handle it my way. And shortly after that, the Jackson County Sheriff Department showed up in an incident report that Soul went over to speak with another neighbor after the dog had been shot. The mayor and police officer were seen leaving the scene and said that the dog was found lying next to the mailbox shortly after the shooting. So these people, it looks like the mayor and a police officer were actually involved with it. They shot the dog, and it was laying next to the mailbox, and they were seen leaving the scene without actually doing anything. They were actually like making an escape.
So basically, the mayor called his buddy. Buddy shows up, shoots the dog, and they just walk away.
Yeah, they just left. They didn't even like. I'm sure that's probably not protocol.
No, I don't think so. Couldn't they have called like the pound or something? Or
Right.
Some sort of humane society or something like that.
This seems to be
the dog.
The way that they always end up taking is like, ooh, I get to shoot something and get away with it. And that ends up what happened. It's like, really, you could have just called animal control. They would have come on and taken care of it. Or if you weren't such a wuss, you could have friggin' gotten a hold of the dog. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to take control of a dog, no matter, you know, how big.
And they want to take our guns from us. I think they should be removed. They shouldn't have guns.
I mean, most, like 99, no police officer has ever been killed by a dog that I know of. I think that was one thing that showed up, that no police officer has actually been killed or by a dog. So why are they shooting dogs to begin with? But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to go up to a dog and take control of it. I mean, I've had a random dog in my front yard that most people would probably pee themselves looking at, but it's really not that hard. If you stay calm and walk up to it slowly, you can grab its collar and you're good to go. I mean, it's not really a big deal, but these police officers obviously have no idea how to handle a dog, or they just are really trigger happy and really want to shoot something, which is, I think, the answer most of the time, because some of these dogs are, it's just, really, have you never seen a dog in your entire life? If you were that sheltered, you probably shouldn't be a cop.
Yeah. If you're that afraid of a dog,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be carrying a gun. I'm sorry.
Oh,
you
no.
shouldn't have been given a badge, and you shouldn't be carrying a gun.
Oh no, a poodle is running at you really fast. Let's shoot it.
That's right.
It's coming to say hi because you're on its property.
Yeah,
Let's
it wants
shoot
to say hello and smell your butt. And you're just going to pull out your gun and shoot it. Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous that, you know, this guy probably, who knows, nothing's probably going to happen to him. And yeah, and these guys shot him and walked away. Like, they didn't even.
This is the mayor. This is the mayor of this town. I mean, this is the man that's in charge of the town and elected by the people. Obviously, not a very good guy.
Yeah, going out and killing dogs. Yeah, that's real mayorly of him. Mm-hmm. Maybe he just really hates dogs and was really mad that they passed an ordinance or something. I mean, this is just, it just ticks me off so much when this happens.
Or he didn't like that guy and his dog or something. Maybe he didn't like the guy that owned the dog.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's not like this...
Overdone and unnecessary.
Right. Even if, you know, there was nothing... What's the worst that he could actually be punished with? I mean, one, the negligent discharge of a firearm. That's probably the worst crime on the books crime that there is. The rest is, you know, damaging somebody's property. So that's about all they're going to get out of it.
Yeah. So next up, we got an interesting story out of DC. We have Benjamin, 39 years old, was in his neighborhood. I believe he was walking, and again, can we come up on another dog story? But this, in fact, is a pit bull. The pit bull was attempting to maul a child. Well, Benjamin pulled out his firearm, and at this point, in a circumstance that it needed to be done, shot the dog. Well, the main problem is the fact that Mr. Benjamin had a unregistered firearm in the District of Columbia there for DC, um, and was facing a year in jail for having a unregistered gun um, that he used to save could have saved a child's life. Um, Again, comes the fact of the hypocrisy of the laws in DC on firearms. But basically, what it comes down to is they were attempting to put him in jail and charge him with fines, and it looks that the judge has taken apart the fact that Mr. Benjamin saved a boy's life and is not going to pursue any time in jail, and they're going to just make him pay the fine, but will have no criminal charges filed against him and no jail time. So I mean, at least we have a smart judge and or prosecutor, whoever has set up this deal. But again, comes the fact that he's facing $1,000 fine and was facing up to a year in jail for carrying a firearm that was not registered to the state.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. I mean, who knows what horrible thing would have happened if it wasn't registered. Because to me, it looks like he was doing just fine and actually ended up saving somebody's life.
Yeah, it's just so sad that this is kind of the state that things are in, that just simply having a piece of metal in a certain configuration is suddenly illegal. Even if he has harmed nobody in his possession, even if he has harmed nobody with his possession, what's the problem at that point? If he's done nothing against anybody else, then nobody should have anything to say about it.
Yeah,
it should be none of their business.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like in this particular case, he did he used his property in a legitimate way to protect somebody else. It's just hypocritical to end up having this type of thing happen. I mean, it's horrible that he's even being fined in the first place. That's kind of ridiculous too.
And also, the interesting part here is the fact that I guess Mr. Page, which is the owner of the dog or dogs, I guess there was multiple dogs involved in this incident. Looks like only one of the dogs actually got a hold of the kid though. Who lives on the north corner of the block where the attack occurred, will face 9 criminal charges, including 3 counts of possession of a dangerous dog, 3 counts of having an unleashed dog, and 3 counts of allowing a dog to go without a collar. Never even heard of any of those. In my opinion.
Really?
I've never heard of those charges. Have you ever heard of those charges?
Yeah, I actually have. Around here, I'm not 100% sure, but I think in the city of Columbus, there's actually a few banned breeds that you're not even allowed to have for whatever ridiculous reason. What was the other ones?
So you got the possession of a dangerous dog, unleashed dog, and then allowing a dog to go without a collar.
Yeah, leash. Well, the leash is your typical leash law. If you're out in public, it has to be on a leash. And without a collar, that's pretty typical too, because that would mean their registration is not with them. Their rabies tag is not with them. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's all those kind of stupid things.
Mm-hmm. No, the government must control everything.
Yeah.
They have to know everything about you.
I know. I really hate that you have to register your dog. Really?
Yeah.
What am I paying? What is this getting me?
Yeah, what does it do? It doesn't do anything.
Yeah. What's it matter if my dog's registered or not? It doesn't really matter. I mean,
It's like
I should
registering my gun. I mean, really, what's good is it doing?
right. If my dog doesn't harm anybody and doesn't give anybody rabies, and all this, that, and the other thing, then what do you care if I have a particular piece of paper noting that I own this particular dog? I would be semi-okay with that, say, with a piece of paper saying that I own this particular dog. There's no reason for me to have to pay year after year to say that I own this particular dog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can't I just tell you once, and then if it dies, then that's the end of it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's really no need to tell you every year that I have a particular dog. It's kind of ridiculous. And even now with... I think the needing a tag will be less and less needed now with, most dogs get the radio transmitters, the little RFIDs.
Oh, your new awesome RFID tracking device for your dog.
Yeah, well, it's nice because I know, at least in my particular case, neither of my dogs wear collars most of the time, because they end up just chewing them off of each other anyways. So it's nice to have the chip, so should my dog run away, they can read the chip and get it back to me. I mean, it's not a huge deal. It's not like it has any other information other than an ID number on it. But, in the future, that could be something that's relatively easy to track. You just scan the number, it brings up their, rabies shot or whatever if they need to know. Who knows? Whatever. But yeah, this is one of those things that stupid laws that are only on the books because some idiot felt threatened by the particular piece of property or dog.
One person ruined it for the rest of us.
Right.
Hear that all too much.
Oh, okay. I haven't. Has this crashed? Oh, no, yeah, it did crash. Okay. I don't even have my next story up. If you want to skip over or...
We'll skip. I'll go to the next one if you'd like. That's fine. So we've got... what is this? You remember where this is out of.
It's out of California somewhere, I think.
So we have is it California? All right, so we have a school safety officer caught on camera. This was caught by, looks like another student with a cell phone. Caught on camera pushing a teenage girl down the stairs and then punching her in the face.
Oh, sorry, that was Chicago, actually.
Is it a Chicago? Okay.
Yeah, it's Chicago.
Yeah, we're in Chicago here. Did you watch this video?
Yeah, I have.
Did you?
It's really messed up.
I mean, I mean, obviously, there's some sort of incident that's going on. I believe it was some sort of the kids were fighting or something like that.
Yeah, two girls were fighting.
The camera comes out. The school safety officer, this is the school safety officer, is grabbing this girl and yelling at her, and just flat out shoves her down the flight of stairs. I mean, this is a school. This is all concrete steps. She goes down the stairs. It's got to be 6 or 7 steps.
Yeah, I'd say about 7.
Camera obviously loses view of her. You can't see exactly how she landed. Camera comes back around the corner. Girl's laying there. People are yelling at the safety officer. The safety officer is yelling back. They start threatening to sue him, and he's like, "Go try it." Blah blah blah. Girl gets up, which I don't blame her for it. Girl gets up and rushes the safety officer because the safety officer is just talking smack to her. And she gets up and tries to rush at him like she's gonna do something, which I don't really blame her. I probably would have done the same thing. You shove me down some steps, I'm gonna come at you. But she goes after him. He just straight Cole cocks her right in the face. She straight decks her, and then acts like it was nothing. He's the champion. Oh, I won. I decked you in the face.
This guy has to outweigh this girl by at least 100 pounds.
If not more. This is a big boy. I mean, this guy's probably at least 250 pounds, if not more. She looks like she's maybe 150, 160, maybe.
Yeah, this guy's huge comparatively.
The camera is not the best camera in the world.
Yeah, it was a cell phone. It was a cell phone camera of a fellow student.
Yeah, it's a little blurry, so it's really hard to tell. But obviously, the safety officer at least doubles their weight, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just shoves her down the stairs like a rag doll, and then decks her in the face. And he just acts a good guy. And how dare you rush at me after I was talking all this crap to you and threw you down the stairs?
Yeah, I believe I saw farther down this article, at least on the good side, that he's been fired.
Yes,
Does it
yeah,
say
I
that?
did
Okay.
see that. Yeah, they said he was fired, which is a great thing.
Is this a private school?
I'm actually.
For some reason, I think it's a private school, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
It says officials from the Chicago Public Schools have dismissed
Dunbar
the employee.
Vocational Career Academy. I don't know if that's
It says officials
a
from the
public.
Chicago Public Schools have dismissed the employee from his position at the school.
Oh,
So it's a
interesting.
public school of some sort.
Wow. Yeah, it says it's Dunbar Vocational Career Academy. So just that name kind of rings
It kind of does.
where the troubled kids go. They give it a nice
name.
a fancy name, nice sounding name, but then if you go to all the other schools, it's like, oh yeah, that's where all the troublemakers go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's the case. I'm just speculating.
And then, of course,
but you muted. Oh, you're good. You're back.
And so,
Stop
of course,
typing.
that's where all the bad security officers go then too, obviously.
He
Put them
couldn't
all
get it.
together and let them beat each other up.
Yeah, he couldn't get a job at the mall.
That's right. I just can't believe this guy. And then just this tone of voice.
You muted again. Just to let you know.
Why
Yeah.
does he keep doing this?
Stop typing so much. I don't know.
Stop touching the computer. No, I'm not touching.
All right.
I can't believe his tone of voice, just the way he talks to her when she's laying on the ground, like, ha, I shoved you down the stairs. It was ridiculous. I mean, obviously this guy's got some serious power trip issues.
You're a security guard at a
All too
school.
high.
I mean, how much authority can you possibly have?
You really don't have any.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of do there, but that's not even then. You really don't have that much power. It's you've convinced the children that you have that much power, and they listen to it. And until one stands up, then they all realize, oh wait, this guy doesn't actually have any power whatsoever.
Well, luckily, this guy probably does not belong to a police union, so the council is not going to override the school's decision to fire him. So at least in this particular respect, this particular individual has been held accountable for his actions and has been let go.
Yeah.
And probably not ever going
way.
to. Yeah, and it's probably going to stay that way. So, yeah. At least he doesn't have the protection of a police union. So,
Yes.
but it is still an example of a government agent going way off the handle and harming an innocent person. And even though while she may have been fighting with somebody else, the response of his is totally uncalled for and unproportional to the amount of resistance she was giving.
Oh, completely. Did you get your stuff booted back up?
Yeah, I did.
All right, you want to go back to your story?
Yeah. So I have a story coming out of New York City, and this is probably, I'd say this is a what do you want to call it? An epilogue to. It's probably not even. It's probably just another chapter in the NYPD trying to prosecute Muslims in general. Yeah. So there is a police detective who said that he has seen no evidence that one of his informants brought up the subject of jihad as a way to bait Muslims into making incriminating remarks. But text messages obtained by the Associated Press show otherwise. So this kind of comes back to, just trying to fabricate evidence against or fabricate incriminating remarks, as it says here, against a particular group who normally would not make said remarks. And the AP has gotten a hold of text messages between him and an informant. This is Detective Stephen Hoban. Yeah, so he is one of the people under investigation by the U.S. District Court, and there's text messages showing a wide range of efforts, and he ended up eliciting some cooperation by a man named Samir Rahman, and it sounded like this particular individual was eager to make money, and he snapped photos during prayer sessions, rallies, parades, recorded names of people who signed petitions or protested, and reported fellow Muslims who volunteered to feed needy families. I have no idea why that would be particularly relevant in anything to do in a malicious manner. I don't think feeding needy families is a particularly malicious act. So
that makes you a terrorist.
It makes you a terrorist. Everything makes you a freaking terrorist.
It does. If you haven't realized that yet, everything makes you a terrorist.
Feed needy people, terrorist.
Yep. You're gonna blow something up. Yep.
Go put gas in your car, terrorist.
Terrorist. Yep.
Snap a photograph of anything, terrorist.
Terrorist.
Like grocery store. Terrorist.
So, according to the AP, this particular individual, Shamir Rahman, he had made over $9,000 over the course of 9 months while spying widely on friends and others. Man, what a douchebag. He was even spying on his own friends. That's not cool.
That's not cool at all.
He said the NYPD encouraged him to use a tactic called create and capture. He said it involved creating conversations about jihad or terrorism and then capturing the responses and sending them to the NYPD. So this guy was basically trying to fabricate
terrorism.
Right. He's trying to he's trying to create terrorists out of peaceful individuals. So, yeah. So it sounds like the NYPD was luring him along pretty well with the money that they were paying him, which...
Can we not come up with a new thing other than like jihad? Let's talk about jihad. That makes you... What if we talk about French fries?
Yeah.
Why does it always have to be Muslims now? I don't get this. I mean...
Yeah, and this goes back to even to earlier incidents where the NYPD has been trying to do this for a long time, and now the NYPD defends it, is now on the defensive as civil rights lawyers allege that such tactics violate a long-standing federal court order, and so that they were not allowed to do this type of activity.
So how is he making this money? Was the police department actually paying this guy? So the tax dollars were going to this guy?
Yeah, he was an informant for the NYPD, and they were paying him. And it says they paid him almost $9,000 over the course of 9 months.
Sad.
From January to September of 2012. So yeah, I mean, right here it has one of the text So Detective Stephen Hoban, he's the guy who's trying to say that he never asked this particular individual or had any knowledge of this particular individual doing this. But the AP got a hold of one of the text messages, and it says, from Rahman to Hoban, hey, bro, which that's weird addressing to to your NYPD handler.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say that.
I think I'm going to bring up jihad with these guys tonight and see what they say, and no, and then it's horrible English. They say and no. Oh, see what they say and no, and then go home because everyone really just praying and stuff. Yeah, Oh, because everyone really just praying and stuff. That's what it says. I thought my brain was processing that wrong, but that's what it says. So essentially, Detective Hoban already knew ahead of time that Rahman was going to bring up jihad with these people unprovoked. So right there sounds pretty entrapping type of activity to me.
Completely.
So it's just more of the NYPD trying to muster up some sort of case against people who there is no case against, and I don't know what they're doing. If they're just trying to posture and seem like they're doing something useful, or
like they're
what?
doing a job.
Yeah. It really makes no sense to me why they keep going down these roads that lead to nowhere, and it is just wasting taxpayer money. Is it just like the anti-Muslim sentiment that seems to be way too prevalent in this culture at the moment? I don't know, and it's kind of sad that it's that way.
It is.
Just to single out, I mean, this is kind of what we're constantly talking about in general, that we want to call out individuals who do things wrong, not the group that they may particularly, associate with. Yeah. The generalization or the collectivizing into because this one person did X, that means that everybody that they ever associated with wants to do X as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just more of the NYPD wasting money on trying to infiltrate, quote unquote, infiltrate Muslim groups that aren't doing anything at all. Apparently, feeding needy people is wrong.
Terrorist.
Yeah. So yeah, this was kind of an interesting story that's coming out of Mississippi.
Oh, that is. I don't know. Yeah.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's more of a justice issue than a police accountability issue, but it's kind of one of those things that cross so many lines when it comes to this our particular
I think it comes
topic
along the lines of unjust laws.
Yes. So, oh, jeez, stupid, damn surveys. No, I don't want to take your stupid survey.
No,
So, back in March of 2009, a lady was 31 weeks into her pregnancy, and she gave birth to a stillborn baby girl. And then 2 months later, a grand jury in Lamar County, Mississippi, indicted her for manslaughter, claiming that the 29-year-old woman willfully, unlawfully, feloniously killed her baby through culpable negligence.
Do we have details on this negligence?
Yeah, so while this is not advisable to do and is obviously harmful, the district attorney, I say that every time I fucking say that. It's so annoying. The district attorney argued that methamphetamine was detected in the lady's system, and that is what caused the baby to die.
Okay, so because she has a problem and probably needs some help, therefore we're going to charge her with manslaughter.
Correct.
I see. How is this going to fix the problem?
Yeah. So they, I can't believe it's taken so long. We're almost, what was that, 4 years now? That's 4 years ago now. And they just heard oral arguments on April 2nd, and it is expected to rule, was it is expected to rule soon on whether the prosecution can move forward. So this is kind of one of those things where Mississippi's laws are so backwards in general and so far overreaching that some of the laws that are meant to protect from outside interference, if a pregnant lady is killed, then the baby is included with said homicide. But now they are moving towards essentially saying that unintended loss in pregnancy is a form of homicide. So it's just kind of...
It'll be thought crimes next, I'm telling you what.
Yeah. I mean, we already know that Mississippi has some of the strictest abortion laws, and I think they only have one clinic left in the entire state because they've essentially made it illegal to operate, or made it difficult to operate, just like any other regulated business. They put all these crazy restrictions that no one can possibly obtain, so they just come in and shut them down, saying that they're not passing inspection, blah blah blah. So
not following our rules that we made up.
Exactly. So yeah, this is a scary thing if they're essentially saying that loss during pregnancy is murder.
If your baby dies while you're pregnant, you're going to jail.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
how does one prove that? I mean, I can say, okay, with the methamphetamines, you found methamphetamines in her system. Okay.
Yeah, but so what? That doesn't.
She has a problem.
Yeah, and that's not even necessarily a 1-to-1 ratio. Anyways, it's not like it's guaranteed to happen. There are plenty of women who do hard drugs all the way through their pregnancy and end up alive.
They come out okay. They're alive. Yeah. Maybe not the healthiest, but they're alive. Yeah.
Right.
There's no one saying that that's actually what killed the baby.
Right, but then what are they going to do next? I mean, okay, meth. Okay, so what are you going to do next? Fish? You can say if they eat fish during pregnancy and they die, then you're going to blame, on...
It was the water. Blame it on the water.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on all who you talk to. What are you going to do? I mean, there's so many things, what you're supposed to eat, what you're not supposed to eat, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. If this would open up any woman to...
And then they could blame you for not taking your prenatal vitamins. And some women don't like to take them. Some people like to do it all natural. They don't want to inject themselves with all that.
Or not exercising, or not eating right, or like I said, eating fish when you're not supposed to eat fish because of the quote-unquote mercury problem. Yeah. It's like there's so many... The list is so long and contradictory that this would open up anybody for doing any little thing, possibly manslaughter for having a miscarriage or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just freaking ridiculous.
It is.
So, very anti-liberty in general. I mean, this is just totally nuts.
Yes.
Don't go to Mississippi.
There's your good response.
Note to self.
Yeah, don't go there.
All right. Anyways, this came out of... Was it Oregon? This is coming out of Seattle's news, but I think it happened
Seattle
in Oregon.
news, but I believe it was in Oregon. Yeah, Oregon woman. Yeah. So we've got a 911 dispatcher tells woman about that this woman is about to be sexually assaulted, that there are no cops to help her due to budget cuts. So we've got an Oregon woman that, from what I read up earlier, had called 911 because of her ex-boyfriend, I believe, showed up at her front door and was pounding on the door. Well, her ex-boyfriend has already proven himself to be an assaultive boyfriend, and obviously not a very good all-around guy. So she called 911. The 911 dispatcher told her that they didn't have anybody to send her. She then, I believe she was on the phone with 911 for quite a while the boyfriend was pounding on the door trying to get in.
Um,
Yeah, it said that the dispatcher said that we don't have anybody to send out there. Obviously, if he comes inside the residence and assaults you, you can ask him to leave. She asked, can you ask him to go away? Like, that's really going to freaking work.
Yeah.
And then she says, do you know if he's intoxicated or anything? At this point, what's helping? This? Yeah, this information does no good.
Yes. Okay. So the woman also told the dispatcher that she had been hospitalized a few weeks prior with another incident from this man. So, like I said, obviously this man has proven himself as an abusive man. The dispatcher stayed on the phone with the woman for 10 minutes before the gentleman got in the door and sexually assaulted this woman. So not only did she call 911 to get help, they told her they couldn't get her help. Sat on the phone for 10 minutes. Dude busts in and still sexually assaults her.
Yeah.
I guess the police did end up arresting the gentleman, but it wasn't. Obviously, didn't help because it was after the incident. So, yeah.
I know. They're saying that it's because of budget cuts, and it says that the sheriff's department had to cut 23 deputies, and the entire major crimes unit after a loss of multi-million-dollar federal subsidy. And now they only have 6 deputies left. But is the sheriff's department the only
outlet for that?
Right, and even that, there's got to be at least some local nearby or something. It kind of makes no sense that they actually have absolutely no coverage whatsoever, even at such a long distance out. You figure there's somebody at least in a 20-mile.
Can we call the fire department?
Right, somebody.
There's got to be somebody. Tell the fire department got to come down with his axe. I mean, come on.
Right.
We'll take care of the situation.
One of the questions that I have out of this thing that I wish somebody had followed up on. Maybe I'll follow up on this week if I get around to it. But I would like to know if anybody has the police logs for like a 20-mile radius around that particular place for that night. So any agency working within a 20-mile radius of this particular location, what were they doing that night? It's hard to believe that no one was on duty at all. And I'm curious if there were people on duty and were doing something that was much less important.
This is interesting. The sheriff's department actually put out a press release warning domestic violence victims to consider relocating to an area with adequate law enforcement services. So this is actually the sheriff's department saying, we can't provide you a service that we're stealing money from you from. So leave.
Right. I mean, even then, right? Even then, it's up to the individual to provide for their own protection.
What was it? The average response time on a 911 call is what, like 23 minutes?
Right. I mean, I had my house was broken into once. The cops didn't show up for 55 minutes. They're not going to make it in time anyways. Even if they did have somebody on call, even at this 10-minute window, they probably wouldn't even have made it on time anyways. So, I mean, it's the individual's
personal protection.
Right. It's the individual's responsibility for their own protection, which in this particular case, it would have been pretty helpful if this particular lady had a firearm to protect herself with. Then this would not have happened. Not that she deserved this to happen in the first place, because obviously it's the perpetrator's fault and it's their responsibility for their misdeeds, and the while not culpable in any of this, you know, there are viable steps to take to be able to protect yourself in this type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm surprised that they say relocate when they could have just been like, get yourself a weapon. Get yourself something to protect yourself with. Because we're not going to get there.
Getting yourself a personal defense weapon.
Right. And that doesn't matter if you have a police department 6 blocks away, 6 miles away, or 6 counties away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you live next door to the police station, it's still going to take them 30 seconds to get to you, and that's probably 28 seconds too long.
Yeah.
If it's a type of incident that happens really quickly. So, I mean, it's kind of it's sad that this particular thing happens. I wish more people could grasp that they're responsible for their own protection and
it's
not to rely.
Police. Yeah, don't rely on the police department.
Right. If you had a private protection agency,
mm-hmm.
then you would at least have somebody that would answer to you. But as it is now, the police don't answer to you, even though you are forced to pay for them. Which
money's
kind of
stolen from
sucks.
you and you have to pay it. They really don't have to actually provide for you.
So I guess that's my rant on that one. But yeah, I'm curious if anybody is actually in that area or is not busy and can call them or figure out what towns do have police departments around there and get the police logs for that night. That would be awesome, because I would be very interested to find out what agencies in the area were doing that particular night, because it probably wasn't nearly as important as probably, oh, they arrested some guy for weed. Let's take 4 hours to process this guy, and let's let actual violent crime happen.
How many victims crimes were taken care of instead of this?
Yeah. So I'm curious if it wasn't that they didn't have anybody. It's just that they didn't have anybody free because for some arbitrary reason
they were revenue generating.
Right. Exactly. They got all these cutbacks. They need to get money somehow. So, yeah. So instead of providing, legitimate services that would actually be useful, they might have been just out screwing around. Who knows? I'd be interested to see if anybody happens to have that or feels like trying to find it.
I know a lot of the scanners have they keep a log of
and I know
for a while.
Yeah, and a lot of local newspapers will also print the police logs as well. So it shouldn't be overly difficult to find unless they are totally incompetent in keeping a log to begin with. Then all bets are off the table at that point.
Who knows? With those budget cuts, maybe they are doing it.
All right. So out of California, out of San Diego, actually, I think this is probably one of the most awesome articles I've read in a long time. At least in our circle, we're constantly hearing about jury nullification, and I know what it is, and you know what it is, but not everybody knows what it is, which is sad. It should be in more of the what do you want to call it?
Common knowledge that most people
know. Yeah, it should be knowledge. Yes, that is exactly it. So this is what makes this such a great article, that actually the mayor of San Diego has interjected himself into a federal criminal case against an operator of a marijuana dispensary, and what's his name? Because I might as well give him credit for this one. Bob Filner. So San Diego Mayor Bob Filner, and he is urging that jurors who will be chosen for the trial reject the federal law in favor of the state statutes and use the century-old legal concept known as jury nullification, which is awesome that it's slowly making its way out into the world, that it's becoming at least more common, that even the mayor has said that he wants people to engage in jury nullification.
That's good stuff.
Which is just awesome.
That's great.
At least he's not trying to stop it and have people arrested for handing out flyers talking about it.
Right.
Like we've seen in other cases.
I mean, this is great that, he's basically saying that, hey, nullify the federal law, because that's how we break away from the federal overlords,
Federal tyrants.
Right. So yeah, that's really all it is. It's a marijuana case that the federal government is pursuing against a dispensary, and the mayor has stood up and said, anybody who gets on this jury should nullify this charge, and this is what jury nullification is. So it's great to see that.
Good stuff.
No whole lot on that one. But hey, we do have a follow.
It's a step in the right direction.
Yes. Hey, but it follows up into the next story anyways.
It does. So this is a funny one. So we have new study tries and fails